Coach, a couple of impressive wins last week, impressive numbers against North Dakota State. First time in 13 years you had 6 players in double figures.
Yeah, we just were really efficient. Nobody just jumped off the page, but as a whole, the team played really well, really balanced. I think our ball movement here in the last couple of weeks has really gotten good offensively. I think we're getting the ball inside and scoring around the basket much more than we did, and that's creating some balance. Ellie, is continuing to string together some good games, had 17 points and 8 rebounds. But Lexi had a really solid game there. Tylee had a good game for us off the bench. So we just had really good production from a lot of people. We really were able to, what we'd say, manage some of our minutes in that game because we knew we had another road trip right after that going to Omaha. And when you can rely on people off the bench to score and maybe save some minutes and some key players, that makes it a pretty good day.
Well, and right away, I counted it up. 7 different players scored for you in the first quarter. And so right away, that's spreading the ball around.
Yeah, and it was just a really kind of natural thing. It wasn't like we're running a lot of sets for different people. But they're just really getting into a comfort zone now. And, without Maya, it's forced some other people to step up. Sydney Palmer, Sydney Tracy, kind of playing different roles for us right now. I think after doing that for a few weeks, they look really comfortable now in what they're doing and how they help us. Sydney Tracy had a basket, but she had 4 assists, had a couple steals. Just really understanding kind of how to play that forward position now is really changed the flow of our entire offense. So just like where everybody's at right now, they look really comfortable with what we expect, and they are really comfortable with what each other does.
But the only thing you didn't do well in that game was shoot it from the three-point line. You started out with 3 in the first quarter and then kind of went quiet from the three-point line the rest of the game.
We did. We had a ton of really good looks, really open looks that could have blown that game open even a little bit more. I know we still scored 85 points and only shot, I think, 7 of 20-something from the three-point line.
7 of 25, yeah.
Yeah, we did have, I think, almost 50 points in the paint, and that's where we've been really good. We've just really done a good job of feeding the post and getting to the basket and not settling for those jump shots. Because if you have those nights where you just keep letting it fly, you're going to slow yourself down. So our team adjusted really well.
And if you're going to miss shots, you're going to go get them, and 15 offensive rebounds makes up for some of those misses.
It does, and that's really collective for us, too. I think Ellie had a couple. Lexi, our point guard, had a couple. Macy Tagan, both Sid Palmer, Sid Tracy did. It's not like we just have one person that goes out and gets 8, 9, offensive rebounds. They're just a huge presence. Most of the things that our team does are collective. So whether it's defense and guarding the ball or scoring, points in the paint, rebounding, they're all very collective. And that's good to see because everybody's involved and everybody's trying to help us be a successful team.
And again, you go to Omaha now and going on the road, you always want to establish yourselves right away. And I don't know if you can establish yourself much better than you did. 9 of your first 10 shots fall. You hit 5 threes in that first quarter. 6 players score and season-high 35 points, and you're off and running.
That was about as good as you can play. I mean, it was really impressive of what the team did. We had not played well in Fargo and had not played well in Omaha the last couple of years, and so the team really responded well in both games. But yeah, you're up 35-14 at the end of the first quarter, and I'm not saying you're cruising from there, but you certainly have things established. I mean, everybody was in a really good frame of mind and playing with a lot of confidence. Macy had a really big first quarter. Maddie had some threes to get everybody going. Ellie continued to play well, had 16 points, I think 11 rebounds in that game. Everybody just really played with a great deal of confidence and poise, and I'd say most things went well for us in that game.
You talked about Ellie, and we talked about her last week, and you really needed her to step up, and that's 3 straight games now that she really has shown up for you.
Yeah, and it's good. We need her to keep doing it. I think when we had Maya in the lineup, Maya was that kind of third option, and so Ellie really just deferred a little bit and kind of got comfortable just trying to defend and get some rebounds, and ultimately that's never really what we wanted, and it just sometimes happens. So I think, that opening with Maya out has forced Ellie to think differently, and she's responded well. And she's a senior for her. This is it. She's coming down the stretch. Her and Lexi, for instance, are kind of playing in their senior year, and they should step up. You should be able to rely on them for more than just being solid. And Ellie's been a great example of that, and we hope she continues it.
And sometimes in blowout games, the team aspect sometimes goes out the window, but to get 30 assists in a game that was that lopsided, that's a good number.
It is. Macy, I think, had 7 assists. Sydney Tracy had 6 assists. So 2 people really just do a great job of moving the ball. And other than that, really collective. A bunch of people had 2, 3 assists, and then just found open people. And I think it goes to 2 things. One, we made a lot of shots. So that's obviously the big part of it. But Two, it's that comfort level of where your teammates are, what we're trying to get done, how we're trying to score, where do our shots come from. Just really kind of settling in, and we've played at a really high level offensively for a while now. I think we're averaging close to 76, 77 points a game. Now, that's as good as it's been since I've been here, quite honestly. We're shooting the ball at a really high level right now as a team, not just one or two people. And so making shots and all that's great, but it really comes from a good understanding of what we're trying to get done.
We know shooting can be contagious. Can steals be contagious? I mean, you had 13 in that game, and when players see other players getting the ball, does that maybe light a fire under them to go out and get some as well?
I hope so. We had 13 there. We had 9 against, I think, North Dakota State. So we're trying to get out, be a little more disruptive and more aggressive. I think that's also helped our offense. It's not really running stuff. We're trying to score a little more, if that makes sense. And defensively, not just being solid and hope they miss. We're trying to get out and disrupt and create some pressure and turnovers. And that was good to see. That was one of our best games. And Omaha usually handles the ball pretty well. They really put it on the floor, and there's not a ton of passing that they do. So it's difficult, and our team really took advantage of some pressure and some passing lanes, and a lot of those turned into fast break points for us, which was good to see.
You mentioned managing minutes. No starter played more, actually no player played more than 29 minutes in either one of those games, and so this time of the year, that's a good number for you.
I think so, especially on the road when you can play well, because sometimes they can be the tough ones where you really got to slug it out, and our team did great. Megan Boltzma even came in off the bench for us and had 8 points in only 7 minutes against Omaha. So she continues to get reps, and if there's a time where we need more from her, those minutes are really valuable. Sydney Palmer, and Tylee Irwin. Tylee was in double figures in both of those games. What they're doing for us off the bench right now, and 16 to 22 minutes a game, is just so important for their development, for our team's success, and when you get games like that, to really take advantage of them for all your players just goes a long ways towards developing people.
Back home for 2, and you'll need to be fresh against a Denver team that has taken 70 or more shots in 4 of their last 6 games. They'll test you up and down the floor.
They play fast. They really play about as fast as anybody in our league. I think we play fast. A couple other teams do, but Denver plays about as fast as any of us, and really aggressive. And they come at you from a lot of different positions. I think their leading scorer averages maybe 10 points a game. And other than that, everybody's got kind of the green light. So there's no one to key on there. There's no one just to sit on and try and take away. They are just incredibly aggressive, but they still shoot the ball well. They make almost 36% of their threes, and they get to the free throw line because of that aggressiveness. So we'll have to get set and defend well for sure.
And their size is very, very good for them on the inside. Madison Nelson, Jordan Alt among the top rebounders. They're the top offensive rebounding club in the league, and also number 2 in rebounding overall. They had 16 offensive rebounds against Fort Wayne.
Yeah, and they have almost, I think, 80 or 90 more offensive rebounds than their opponents. Alt, as you mentioned, she had a big game against us out in Denver, just really physical, and she knows us well. We've been playing against her now for 4 years, and we know her well, and hopefully we can put a good plan in place to keep her off the glass and just slow her down a little bit offensively. She had a nice game for them out in Denver against us, too. But just their aggressiveness is just so much different now compared to what it was in the past, and that's what makes them a good rebounding team and transition team. But that also kind of puts them in the spots where sometimes they'll turn it over too, because they get going so fast and try and make a play that maybe isn't quite there. So if we can get set defensively and be in the right spots, that could be a big advantage for us.
And that first meeting was unusual because your team's not used to playing from behind long stretches of time, and you were playing behind for about 3/4 of that game.
Just went back and watched the film over the weekend, and I think with about 4 or 5 minutes to go in the game, it was either a 1-point game or we're tied or something like that. Yeah. And you're right, we were behind until into that fourth quarter. It was a struggle. We had all kinds of travel getting out there and issues. We had a bunch of people out with illnesses, and so we'll see if we can try and do a little bit better here at home. We're certainly playing with a lot of confidence now and a lot of momentum. Sometimes the challenge, though, is when you play as well as we have these last several games, it just can be a little complacent and a little bit of a lack of fire, and we'll have to address that because we really did that against the 3 teams that are in the bottom spot in our league, Omaha, NDSU, and Fort Wayne. Now we're going to have a stretch against teams that are in the middle of the pack or above. And so Denver's one of those teams, and then it'll be Oral Roberts, and then we turn right around and have Western again. So this will be a big stretch for us to see if we can play well.
Oral Roberts has a lot of players that can score. Marianez, Faith Ihem, Mayberry's really coming along as a freshman. They don't shoot a lot of threes, but when they do shoot threes, they're very effective.
Yeah, they make threes, and that's been a big improvement for them. That's something they've struggled with in the past. Those 2 post players that you mentioned are still as good as any post combination in our league. We had to play really well in Tulsa earlier this year to get out of there with a win. They actually, I think, had USD down double digits late in that game, too, and USD came back and won. They're right there, talent-wise, with any of us. And you've really got to slow down that inside game. Those two post players are good enough to put a lot of points up and put you in foul trouble, and they rebound. And one of the few teams in our league that really, is a post kind of driven team. And so the matchups are different than what we see from a lot of other teams, and we'll have to be ready for that.
Boy, the one thing about that game is just the runs. They go on an 8-0 run, you go on a 10-0 run, they go on a 9-2 run, you go on an 11-4 run. I mean, it really was a lot of back and forth and a lot of momentum switches in that first meeting.
Yeah, it was. And they just do a good job of getting you in a little bit of foul trouble, too. It's not always falling out, but, as a post player, when you're going up against Iam, she's just so aggressive. So in your mind, I've got to defend, but she comes at you so quickly, I got to stay out of foul trouble. So it just creates a little passiveness without trying to. And then when she gets one or two on you, now it really makes you think twice, and that takes you out of your offensive game a little bit too. They can also block shots with their length and athleticism. So as our perimeter players are trying to get to the basket, they challenge shots. They're really physical on the perimeter. They don't let you get to your spots very well. And they're a good team, a really good team, and I still think they'll be, certainly capable of beating any of us in our league.
Maya, any closer to coming back?
Well, we hope so. She's had a lot of good news and a lot of good reports, and she's doing some moving around on it now, too. So certainly a chance maybe even this week yet, later this week. If not, I think the next week for sure is what we're kind of thinking, unless there's something that changes.